Welcome to the Bridge Capital Market and Economic Recap for July 2024. I'm your host, Eric Jefferson. A lot to talk about this morning. We actually have a few quick words from our legal team before we dive in. With that, as I mentioned, coming to you a day delayed. This is now before trading on August 2nd. Part of the reason for that, a lot of data points coming out as of late. One this morning that we figured worth delaying this release for one day just to be able to capture. A lot going on, though, and we'll sort of dive right in, starting with the good news. Have received some encouraging data on the growth front. GDP, that is the measure of total economic output. That beat expectations, coming in at 2.8%. It's about 1.5 times above the long-term average or target of 2%. Obviously, that had instilled a lot of confidence. This soft landing would likely continue. PCE, that is the measure of inflation the Federal Reserve focuses most keenly on with respect to how they determine their interest rate policy. That has continued to make significant progress, coming in last month at 2.5%. Again, well off the peaks over the last 18 months. Still, certainly, though, represents some more work to be done. That was the argument that interest rates may stay higher for longer, provided that the labor market remained resilient. Well, turns out that may not be the case. About 15 minutes ago, as of this recording, Friday morning, August the 2nd, we received some much softer than expected payroll data that came in well beneath expectations, bringing the unemployment rate now up to 4.3%, almost a full percentage point from the recent lows over the last 2-3 years. All of this now confirms on the good news. We'll likely see some interest rates be cut in the next meeting in September. That has been a huge benefit to bonds, as you would expect. Stocks, however, those have come under a great deal of pressure. No surprise there. About 5% off the most recent all-time high that we achieved in mid-July. Granted, we are set to open today's trading about 2% lower. Now, one of the really interesting developments that has started to take place in markets over the past month has been a change in leadership. Since the beginning of 2023, we've talked about how it's really been a handful of these mega cap technology companies, those very closely tied to the theme of AI, that have really carried this market. Those dubbed the Magnificent Seven, again, continued this year on a very, very strong start. However, second week in July, started to see some softening. Those are down about 15% from their recent highs. More volatility expected once we start trading in a few minutes here. Interestingly enough, though, leadership has been replaced with those companies with smaller, more emerging. Those tend to be more volatile, more cyclical, so more tied to the overall growth environment. We saw small caps rally very significantly, up double digits in the last month. That was a function of confidence in the renewed growth story, as well as the prospect that rates would be ticking lower. Now, in this case, well, rates certainly will be going lower. Unfortunately, it looks like it's potentially for more of the wrong reasons. That has resulted in a bad news is bad news for markets. Again, we're certainly seeing reflected with a significant uptick in volatility. That's something that we have talked about for a while. Market was pricing in perfection, continued to get a lot of perfection. However, in doing so, it does leave the market overly vulnerable to any sort of shock. If any news less than perfect, we do think that certainly increases the probability that you may see more volatility. That being said, as we've had that mindset for a while, that you've really seen that positioned from a portfolio standpoint. Unfortunately, we've seen gold. We've also seen bonds and duration really start going back to playing defense, which is the goal or thesis of why you would include that in a diversified portfolio. So a lot going on. We'll certainly keep you tuned with any major developments as they happen. In the meantime, hope you have a great weekend, and please don't ever hesitate to reach out with questions. Take care.